extraordinary Chicago scene in the lair of Ron Richards here in Brighton Park. When I mean lair, it's because this is his amazing workshop, kind of akin to like a Frankenstein workshop, except Ron builds all sorts of models that you have seen on TV, you've seen in movies, you've seen them everywhere. But I wanted to talk to Ron for the Chicago scene because his company, Midnight Magic Works, is all you're doing, right, Ron?
Yes, it is.
Thank you for letting me come down here and take a look at what you do here. But for people who have never heard of this type of process, like what do you do? Give me like the general scope of what you do, because you do have a lot of different items that you manufacture, but give me the general sense of what you do.
Well, in general, you would call it model making, but it encompasses a lot more than what you would think of as model kits or just miniatures like trains or something. It's prototyping, pattern working on inventions, helping people with their ideas, creating short-run products.
One of the things that you worked on is this model right here is the front end of a race car, but it's a race car driver who had you work on it to kind of recreate the front end because he wanted a replica, right, to race.
Well, the original race car was made in the 60s. It's called a zinc car. It was a German car. The body was handmade out of fiberglass. It's a classic car, irreplaceable, but the front was damaged in an accident.
Got it.
So he needed the front recreated, and the car was scanned, and the 3D work was done, and a pattern was cut, but it still needed a lot of handwork. And actually, when the pattern came to me, I got a little scared because it was very crooked and symmetrical. I thought something went wrong with the process, but he assured me, no, the real one, it was handmade, so it's not totally symmetrical.
So imperfections, right?
Imperfections. Yeah. And we recreated the pattern, made a fiberglass mold, and ultimately a fiberglass part from the mold, which is back here. Let's see, it's like a giant shell.
Yep.
And the new part was grafted to the original car, blended right in, and looks beautiful. So the car is back online, able to race again.
And you've also done other things like the Star Wars and the Bantha. Explain.
This particular item is a Bantha from the original Star Wars movie, and it's a recreation of a classic toy that never was, but still has a lot of interest and demand for it. So it's done in the style of the old Star Wars figures, and they actually fit with it. And we're producing it for a company that makes them for collectors.
Wow, and speaking of collectors, I noticed the one unique piece that you have in the back there, which is the USS Enterprise from Star Trek, correct?
Yeah, it's a full-size recreation of the filming model used in the original 1979 movie. Maybe the biggest garage kit ever made. Fiberglass and cast parts over 8 feet long, and it's a pretty accurate replica.
Have you tried putting one of those together? I mean, how long would that take?
It could take a long time. I know the people who started the project actually put theirs together, and it's in a museum now, and they lit it, did everything that was done on the original, and it just looks like it came right out of the movie. It's pretty amazing.
That's incredible. And then you also have different things from different movies. You have something that was made in Alien, something that was made in Independence Day, and you have this submarine that's kind of half in, half out of the water. What's that one?
That is the Nautilus from the classic Disney movie, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Wow.
And I originally recreated that for a private collector, but I have all the molds, and we decided to try to produce a waterline version, like it's actually sitting in the water. So that's what that particular piece is. And we do have a lot of spaceships we've done over the years, from Star Trek, Star Wars, Alien. You mentioned Independence Day.
Yeah, what's that Independence Day one?
We have the troop carrier, which made a brief appearance inside the mothership near the end of the movie. And I took that one and recast and painted it up to look like it came right out of the movie.
Wow. And then you also have something from another movie, this space shuttle. Explain that one.
That is from the old Gil Gerard, Buck Rogers TV show from the 1980s, and that is the shuttle that he got frozen in and found hundreds of years later. So it's all kind of charred and beaten up looking.
But you show it from, you have the model, the cast that you made the model in. That's a finished product. And even next to that is another spaceship from another TV show that was on years ago, and that's kind of what they look like when you're done with them, right? You kind of get them together. That's put together, but you make the pieces to make those look like that when they are put together, right?
Yes, we're generally producing them in pieces as kits, and the customer will assemble them and paint them themselves. It takes more skill than your average model kit that you would get at a hobby store. So people have some amazing skill sets out there, and some of the things they do with our kits are pretty amazing.
Right, and so from one thing to another, where we're talking about spaceships and car front ends, you also dive into things that people have seen on Chicago Med with the, you talked about one thing in particular about a icicle going through somebody, or operating on babies that are not real babies, because you've made these little models of things, including something that we're standing in front of right now, which is something for medical procedures as well. Is that correct?
Yes, I've been making medical and dental training aids for students. So obviously you don't want a student carving up a real person until they've figured out what they're doing.
Right, yeah,
so
bad.
These are simulated. There's organs inside, and even fake blood will be put here. This is still in the prototype stage. So this belly will actually be rubber, and it will have a netting cast into it so that it can actually be cut and resutured together.
Oh wow, and you do all that right here?
Yes, it's all done right here, taking it from idea all the way to the prototype, the model, and then the production.
We were looking a little earlier about a very basic version of how you pour a model or a cast for a model, correct?
Yeah, we did just a very basic two-part material pour.
Right, and then from that to something like this, that's pretty incredible, to, again, something over here where you have dove into the dentistry field, correct?
Yes, this is a dental training mannequin that I make some parts for. I make the rubber and foam parts, and this is the final part that goes over a skull armature. The whole thing is designed so that the student can step on a pedal and open the jaw, and then put the plastic plates in that they do x-rays on. So it's for practicing doing x-rays. And it starts with an original sculpt.
Like so, correct?
Yeah, and a mold. This is the rubber lining of a mold for a piece like that. And then eventually the rest of the mold gets pretty involved for this piece, but it's...
And this is something that you've made yourself. This is what you're doing.
Yes, this is all produced by me. The rubber is actually pumped in through the top here and fills from the bottom up, and then that's how you wind up getting the piece that comes out. And then eventually the hair will get painted. A separate chin piece will be put on. This is what it looks like before it's even been trimmed. And then there's some foam insert parts. There's a skull inside there, cables.
A lot goes into it, I bet, huh?
Yeah, it's a pretty complex piece.
And it all come out of your studio here in the basement of the building, where it's become your own little your workshop. But this is the place that you work. But how did this compare to what you were like as a kid? I imagine your bedroom was something similar, if you were, because you can't just fall into something like this. This is something that you've probably had a lifelong love for.
Well, it sure started with a love for movies, things like Planet of the Apes, Star Wars, obviously. It started with me trying to reproduce what I saw in those shows.
Interesting.
Making an ape costume, just taking a wig stand and some clay, making an ape face, then going as that for Halloween. Getting interested in models, miniatures, and special effects, and how everything was done. That led to interest in art, sculpting, the model making.
And you kind of do it all: art, sculpting, the model making, the painting, everything. You do a lot of it, for not necessarily for all projects, but you have the gamut of that ability to do all those things, right?
Yeah, I've done some landscape paintings. As you mentioned earlier, I was lucky enough to get to even do some special effects makeups for a couple of TV shows and a short movie. It's nice because you're putting together a lot of different skills, and you just never get tired of it, or at least I don't.
Yeah.
Because you're always doing something new and unexpected.
Yes, this is very much new and unexpected, at least for me, to see something like this, and it's great that it's here in Chicago. For people who want to learn more about what you do, or perhaps maybe they have an idea for a project, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, they can look on Facebook under Midnight Magic Works and find me there.
Fantastic. Ron, thank you very much for taking the time to show me this amazing workshop and all this stuff that you do. It's remarkable. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. That's the Chicago scene today here in the Brighton Park neighborhood. TBARNAS at WGNTV.com. If you have a suggestion for the Chicago scene, that's tbarnes at WGNTV.com. We'll see you later. Thanks, everybody.